Hi everyone, today's video we're going to approach and deal with a subject that many people do have a big fear of, and it's dealing with things behind. I often hear stories about how people feel as though they can't slow down because someone's close. We're going to have a look at this and try and put steps in place to help everyone out, and this is across the board. This is when you're driving a car, this is when you're riding a motorbike, this is when you're cycling as well. These techniques that I'm going to show today can be applied to everything. So let's get going. We've got pretty much a proper view camera stuck out the back as well. This is quite important for the things that I'm trying to explain. Usually dash cams, they give people a distorted image. Well, not usually, they do give people a distorted image, and you can't really tell unless you've got a lot of experience using dash cams and the fields of vision. You can't usually tell very easily how close people are. So we've got a pretty much real view set up at the back on a different camera, and I'm just going to have a little drive and just verbalize what I'm doing with people behind. I'm just going to grab my glasses out. I'll stick them on top of my head because it is quite bright today. Okay, so one thing I'd like to talk about straight from the off is a lesson that I do with students quite often, and it's called friend or foe. Explain. You may have heard me talk about this before. Effectively, we're checking in our mirrors and seeing whether the person behind is going to be easily dealt with, or it's easy to deal with stuff in front of us with them driving how they drive, or whether it's going to be problematic. Now, we all know, or we should know, that our separation distances, good weather like it is today, should be 2 seconds. If people aren't following you the correct distance, you have to adjust a number of things. You have to adjust when you signal, you have to adjust when you brake, but it's the braking that we're going to be really concentrating on today. So at the moment, no one's close behind, so I can please myself to a certain extent how I do this braking, but I'm not going to approach too fast, just in case there's any people want to walk across before I get to that giveaway line, although it's not here today because they've resurfaced the front of this junction. Just out of interest, I've stopped in a little spot that I've got a little view down this side. I don't think you'll be able to see it from this camera angle, but sometimes you're better off holding back of a giveaway line a little bit to get a better view, and that's exactly what we've got here. I think there's another one coming. I can see a van over the top. Is anyone behind? It wouldn't matter at this point anyway, because honestly, anyone behind can wait. Try not to get pressured into doing the wrong thing just by people behind. And this is a mindset that you've got to try and improve with if you do feel stressed. So at the moment, I'm anticipating and planning. These lights up ahead, they could change. Who's behind? No one. So if these lights changed, I could brake heavily. Simple. I'm going to get into a few busier areas, and again, same thing here. So if we have a scenario like this all the time where there's no one following close, it makes things a hell of a lot more chilled out. So this can work a couple of ways as well. This can hopefully educate the people who do travel too close, but also the main thing is to help people who do feel under a little bit of pressure when people are close. We've also got to think about the size of the vehicle. Bigger vehicles often take a little bit longer to stop. Again, there's no one close behind, so I can literally please myself. If someone is close, we need to slow early, we need to do it smoothly. And how does that make things safer? People quite often escape and brake at the last possible moment, and it's doing that which increases the risk. If you think about it, if you do things in that way, so you brake heavily at the last moment, all your braking's done really sharply. If that vehicle that is close behind isn't paying attention, they've then got very little time to work things out. So what we're trying to do is, if we recognise someone is close, we're trying to slow as early as we can, maybe back off your gas as early as we can. Maybe use the lightest little bit of brake just as a warning and control the people behind. If you control the people behind, you can slow them down. And then what we're then trying to do is get slow and then effectively roll away from them over the last little bit. So, got a couple of vehicles around me. We've got the Mercedes. Now, they're turning. A little bit of a shame. I wanted them really to come on and tailgate me. So, we've got this one behind. They're okay at the minute. They're sort of like in that mid-distance. I think they're okay at this speed. But if they start catching me under braking, I'm going to do a little bit more brake to warn them earlier. So I've got my foot gently on the brake and I'm just using it. And I'm just watching them as well. If things change behind as you're doing the braking, you need to change what you're doing with your car. People do things too routinely. They just brake in one manner, they accelerate in one manner, and that's why people often get themselves into problem and risk, because they're not adapting and changing what they're doing to suit the surroundings. So that was quite easy there. We've got a little bit of a heavier traffic section, a little touch further up. I can't clear the junction just yet, so I'm just holding back. Again, I didn't zoom and stop. I planned early and I slowed smoothly. And this is another way where the pedestrian priority rules, where I would be giving way to pedestrians if they wish to use a crossing of the road, not a crossing, if they wish to cross the road at the entrance or an exit to a junction. That's why this would not be a problem to me, or that's why helping them cross or holding back and letting them cross wouldn't be an issue, because I'd see it early and I would manage and control people smoothly. Your rear camera's gone off. Okay. All right, we might just have to go off the rear dash cam footage. It is what it is. That camera's always been the same. It just overheats at a click of a switch. All right. So going back to what I was saying about the pedestrian priority, this one, it's not behind me, but you've got to change what you're doing to suit. So all the way throughout, this four-wheel drive behind has been a friend. The driver of this black Audi, it didn't affect me, but if they were behind me, it might be a little bit different. It might be faux time. So they're the type of people you're trying to spot and you're trying to look out for. So pedestrian priority, if I was to see someone crossing the road, I'd see it early and I'd slow smoothly. The problem with this pedestrian priority rule is that the general population of drivers aren't that skilled. They don't look that far. They don't understand this basic skill of slowing down in a smooth manner to then aid and control the people behind. They'll just slam on at the last moment, and then it does cause problems if you were going to give way with people behind. So, who's close behind now? Our four-wheel drive friend is going there. There's no one close. So again, I could stop really heavily, no issues. So I'm going to try and place myself also in scenarios and in situations. For example, I could slow down smoothly here and give way to these people. I didn't have to. You're okay. But even if there was a vehicle behind, that wouldn't have been a problem because of how I did it. It's if it's done sharply and at the last moment, that's when it becomes a problem. Just going back to that scenario, just to reiterate, those scenarios, I didn't have to let them across. I just chose to. The bus coming out, I'm slowing early. That does a couple of things as well to the bus driver. Me slowing early and smoothly in this manner, all right, the grey Suzuki's let them out, but me slowing in this manner, that also is a brilliant way of communicating to people in front. And again, people aren't brilliant at that. So let's make an assessment of the Ford Focus behind. What's their distance like? Mid-distance again. They're not probably quite 2 seconds, but they're not massively close. So what I'm actually doing now is giving myself a little more space between myself and the vehicles in front, because then what I can do, I can slow in a smooth manner. Really important. So have a little look at them again. Friend or foe? Friend. No bothers, no issues. I haven't got my roof box on today as well. Probably should have left it on. But again, I'm just watching now, they're going that way, so I don't really need to adjust my brake. But if they were catching me, I'd brake more, slow them down, and then roll away. Emergency services, can hear them. Yep, that's all fine. This technique also can aid situations with emergency services. You don't want to be just slamming on at the last moment. But the technique that we're sort of explaining today isn't or shouldn't be a problem with emergency services directly behind. But you could do a smoother slow to give them more time to work out where their sort of like escape corridor is. So roundabouts are an absolute classic time as well to get rear-ended. Classic. Crossing, this one behind, I've just reduced. Notice I reduced on the way in, and I reduced early enough. I know that puts that one closer, but it then allows me to do my stop in a smoother manner. Roundabouts, look early and adjust your speed early. We're good, I can keep flowing. And the classic roundabout accident is when people just slam on at the end and then the person behind is too close and then they go into the back of you. Yes, the blame goes with people behind. They should be paying attention. But the people who keep on getting hit from behind, have a look at your own contribution to those situations and incidents. This one's just starting a little bit of a compass. No, they're turning right, we're all good. No one's close behind again, all friendly. Haven't found anyone yet who could be a bit of a problem, but the Jag is slightly catching. It's a busier road situation up ahead. This is County Road in Liverpool. I'm just going to have a little look about what's going on. So what would you say, what would you assess the Jag driver, friend or foe? It's virtually the same as the last two, the four-wheel drive and the Focus, so no problems. Let's have a little look how it, I'm not going to slow really heavily for the pedestrians because of the distance of the Jag. It's a lovely little example that. If the Jag had have been further away, I think I would have slowed, took up a position to command the road and just let those people cross. But it wasn't the safest to do it at that particular point, only because of the time and the braking that I had to do. That's a good one, that. It's a great example. Crossing okay, Jag's a little close now. So again, what am I doing? I'm flowing this time, so I don't have to do the brake. That's always an option if you've got a lane free to flow. Now, I am just going to just put my left wheel on this line. Yeah, I'm just slowing the Jag early this time. And then rolling. And then that gives me options to leave this clear, to keep flowing. If you can keep flowing, the reduction in risk, I'm slowing early. Jag's just following me, now they're turning, that's okay. So if you can slow early and creep like I did there, the reduction in risk is huge. There's also many other benefits to it as well. It saves a load of fuel. I'm sure we've all pushed one time or the other a broken down car. It's difficult to get going, but it's easier to keep going once it's going. So this technique saves fuel because the car's doing less work to actually move itself away. Wicked. I'm gonna deal with the blue parked one a little bit further up, and then what are we doing with this one? I'm just going to adjust my acceleration to be behind it. No problems, we're all out. And I'm going to do a sharp left. I just wish those lights had have been on green, to be honest. The taxi's going that side. And even if there isn't anyone close, this is more car sympathetic. Honestly, it doesn't wear your brakes out as much. Again, I kept it moving. Just that little bit of movement reduces risk, saves fuel, can bore you to death with all the benefits of doing stuff like that. And it also, this is another important one, gives your passengers a smoother ride. Here, space, super small. It would be even worse if someone was following close because of the likelihood of having to brake quickly. Adjust your speed accordingly. Will we still be at the lights? I was going to say behind the grey four-wheel drive, but the grey four-wheel drive up ahead is turning. But I'm suspecting situations like this, usually, you're still going to be in the same spot. Let's have a little look at this. Yeah, those lights have been on red for a while, so it wouldn't have made any difference the pace I came through there. There you go, the lights are changing. I flow straight through. All right, no worries. So, new road, new mirrors. Something that instructors quite often talk about. Why is that? Well, that's so we know where people are, and again, we can make that assessment of how we adjust things. Lights could change because the filter arrow's on, no one's close, can brake heavily, could stop, could through. And people don't do that enough coming in towards sets of traffic lights either. They deal with every single set in the same way. They try and get through, they increase the speed to try and get through, and then they suddenly change and then they jump on the brakes. So notice what I was doing there. I was reducing at that danger zone, and it wasn't bad at all because there was no one close. The red one was in lane 2 and doing a right turn, so it was pretty irrelevant in the end. Okay. The sharpness of turn that you're taking, I wanted to do a little demo before, but the lights were on red. Look at the sharpness of this left turn. If you're knowing that you're doing a left turn, do this braking in that particular way. Downhill section we just had. If you're downhill, do the braking even more so in this particular way. Get it done, get it slow, get them controlled, and then roll away from them. That's the key. Got a big vehicle in front of us. I am just going to flow round. Is there enough space? Is the lorry driver having to get round anyone? No, just be ready in case yeah, the lorry driver was trying to get round something parked on the pavements. But we were okay while the traffic was queuing. I'm gonna try and place myself within traffic so we get a few more examples of dealing with these vehicles at the back of us. So, if you're on a motorbike, same things apply. Last thing you need to do is speed up into risk, so you've got to brake harder. If you're on a push bike, exactly the same. The amount of cyclists who refuse to slow down and adjust their speed, so therefore if a problem happens, they've got it under control and there's less risk of behind. I always hear, oh, I'm not stopping at that light because of the risk of people behind. It's your deficiencies in how you're doing your slowing down that generally cause that. Not all the time, but generally. Mercedes isn't too bad. I am going to try and make a little bit of progress, and hopefully we'll get someone pretty close to us. Mercedes is keeping a good distance, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tuck us in here, not really catching them in front, and I'm going to tuck it in here again. Pretty poor lane discipline from them. They've heard me, that's fine. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to grow this gap, and it doesn't have to be jump on the brakes to do it. If it just needs a little bit more space, just slightly tweak your acceleration just to be letting that vehicle go off in front of you, and then honestly everything's safe. This space in front makes this space behind, although it's brilliant anyway, even safer. And that's what you've got to think. You've got to manage this space around. I know I've done a lot of work on space over the last little bit, but it's important. Friend behind, one in the middle lane's the one that I'm thinking of. is this one in the middle lane looking to turn left. They were coming pretty quick. They've just held back behind me. Are they going to tuck it into the lane behind me? Don't know. I'm only doing 35. They're not coming past. That would be my guess. So I'm continuing to watch them, not staring at them, but glancing, as well as obviously taking into account everything that we see out in front of us. And look what I was talking about. Read the script. You can look at certain aspects of people's speed, and honestly, you can suss out what they're doing. They were okay in the end, though. They made a very good decision. Yeah, they're trying to make a little bit of progress. I was only doing 35. Yeah, should I overtake this green car? Yeah, hang on a minute. The lights are coming up. There's not much space in front. I'm just going to reduce. And they made a good decision and tucked it in behind. So, nothing bad about this driver behind. Pretty good decision. It affects things massively with, like we said before, about the big lorries. All right, you don't generally get small lorries, but you know where I'm coming from. What about the one behind now, though? I'm trying to position myself next to this little space, but this one to my right is tailgating the lorry a little bit. So the one behind, this is quite awkward, this. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to adjust slightly and just have this one to my right, the Seat, in front. I've got options. One behind's meh. I'm aware of this one now, because if that one came back in, lights changed, they braked, that was a big problem. So you've got to be careful of people like this. She's just tagging onto the back of the lorry. Again, I'm wary of her wishing to come back in because it's bunched. Do you notice how my level of communication, obviously talking about and verbalizing what is going on around, increased? And that's the problem with it. So let's have a little look at this. Is this four-wheel drive going to come in? Is this one going to come in? Everything's bunching again. So I could stop. I could. They're going left. That's a help. Through. So terrible lane discipline by the lorry. He's taken that long, the driver of that lorry, to come back into the left-hand side where he was overtaking no one. In any case, notice again, as risk increased, it made things easier when this vehicle that was behind us turned left. Just going to grow my gap. I'm growing it at that crucial point. I'm having to use a little bit of brake because the lorry was slowing down. Okay, no problems. So there are occasions where you won't be able to keep 2 seconds. Someone's going to take your space. But then it's important to grow your gap. Have a little look at this behind. I'm using my brake lightly. I'm going to control this lorry driver. He can slow down. And I'm doing him a favour because I'm saving him fuel. I'm keeping him moving. And I've always got that safety space out in front of me if that's going to be an issue. You've always got that room to move further forward. And it does, it saves fuel. He's okay now. So, I'm going to hook a left here. Again, how close is the lorry? Slowing him. I think he's got the message. Take your time with it. No rush. Signal a little bit earlier because he's a little close. He's not so bad now. Like I said, I think he's got the message, but I'm doing this as smoothly as I can, doing my utmost to keep things moving. Do the same on your motorbike, do the same on your push bike, and then you can go out of there. And it's exactly the same. I am going to approach this roundabout a little quicker on purpose and show you what I'm talking about. So, even if you approach quick, slow more, relax, got time to do things, flow. And it's that flow that is the safety side of things. If people are close, don't do the braking as late as I just did it at the roundabout. It was an example, I think you get that. Anyway, do you do that? Is that something that you try and have a mindset of when you're doing your driving? It's probably, I would say, one of the most important things in keeping yourself safe on the road. People get too wrapped up with just staying below the speed limit, but you could stay below the speed limit, have a situation like that, jump on the brakes really late, and then get hit from behind. Yes, it's the person's behind's fault, but you're a big contribution to it. Think about it. Keep safe, everyone. Thanks a lot for your support. It means so much. I'll see you all soon.